We got our first look at Lions' first-round draft pick, Tyleik Williams, against the Atlanta Falcons. And I got to say, I'm pretty pleased with the debut. So, yes, today I want to focus on the first-round draft pick. We'll come back. We'll do one for Tate Ratledge as well. There's a couple of players that I really want to highlight already. I'm very excited about. Maybe even Rocky Sin. We'll show some things in here today as well at safety. But Tyleik Williams gets to focus first because for my expectations, played longer than I thought he would play. I think he played like 4 drives in this game, so that's much more than I thought he would actually be on the field. Number 2, I was expecting him to be pretty dominant against the run, just live at the line of scrimmage, live at or behind the line of scrimmage consistently is what my expectation was in this game. Maybe make a couple of flash plays. I think he lived up to that. I think that's exactly what he delivered in this game. And then as a pass rusher, I didn't think we'd see him maybe this much. I was hoping for maybe 1 or 2 plays where we saw some real juice as a rusher, but ultimately I wasn't expecting much, and I don't think we got craziness as a pass rusher. I think that's kind of what it was. We saw a little bit of juice, a little bit of the upside, some of the movement skills that are there, and there's so much, it feels like, creatively that he could add to his bag as time goes on as a rusher, where once we get him to the spot, once he gets to a spot where he's a very good pass rusher, I think we're going to be very excited about Tyleik Williams as one of the most well-rounded interior defensive linemen in the game, because that's the element right now where you just kind of see little spurts, you see the athleticism pop, you see the football intelligence, but you don't see any kind of dominance right now, and that's okay because that's what I expected out of Ohio State. However, run defense can be difficult to translate. And right now, I think we're in a really good spot. Not to say it was all perfect, but man, I thought it translated pretty darn well for the first look. So let's jump right into it. And we're going to start here with this offset eye look. He's lined up in the 3 technique, which is what he did at Ohio State majority of the time. And we're going to get this stretch look. He's on the play side here. Immediately, we get started off with exactly what you wanted to see. Living at or behind the line of scrimmage. Very good quickness off the ball. The reactiveness to the run scheme. He just plays really fast. He gets to his spots very fast. You're going to see that right here. He's very quick to position himself. Then you get to see the strength that he works through with his hips here. And look at the footwork. He's able to keep moving. He's able to really sustain and continue to maintain his gap as the play continues to stretch itself out because he has those movement skills to do that. And as you're seeing, he's meeting his man right where he starts on the play, and he's going to stay there the entire rep. There is no movement that gets upfield here. He just handles the right guard on the play. You even get the center that comes over, tries to kind of combo and then set up to the next level, but the center doesn't create any movement because he's able to continue to maintain that leverage on the play side and just hold his ground, and then ultimately it's forced to cut back, and that's where you get Zach Cunningham, who's able to scrape down, settle in, because the center doesn't really get to kick him out of the play. No one's able to kick him out of the play here, so the center has a free run to just step down and make the tackle, and the backside is slowly collapsing in. This was such a key from Tyleik, and it's going to be a key for him year 1. He may not make a ton of plays, but these are plays that he's making that he's not going to get counted for on a stat sheet. But when you have 2 plays that are noticeable, like this one and another one that we'll show here soon, of a guy like Zach Cunningham just stepping down into a wide open run lane to make the stop, it speaks a lot to what those big dudes are doing on the inside. So this was a great first example to jump into here. Also, Trevor Nowaski at off ball. You see him on the backside with the quick scrape, steps in, gets through contact, makes the stop as well. Trevor Nowaski, another guy we may have to highlight, did a lot of off ball work in this game. I thought he actually performed pretty darn well there. It seemed like Lions wanted to kind of get a nice little look at that. Sting out, and I'll quickly highlight this kind of next play, because one thing I have liked through 2 preseason games is there's seemingly been a real emphasis on we are not going to be running past the quarterback. We have to keep this guy in the pocket. We have to have awareness at all times of where the quarterback is, especially in the preseason when it's not as schematically driven. In these games, you have tons of quarterbacks just taking off on us, having big runs left and right. That's what would happen in the past all the time. And in this preseason to this point, I've seen a lot of good examples of the Lions really collapsing the pocket, not pushing themselves too far upfield and out of the play, and the interior defensive lineman playing with such an active awareness to be in a spot where they can help and give support if the quarterback tries to step up and run. And this is a great example of that. Plus, we get some coverage across the board, and I did want to highlight Avonte Maddox and also Rocky Sin over the middle of the field here, right? Maddox, they're working in the slot, and look, he has some of the easiest movement skills in terms of recovery ability. He's silky smooth, so he's able to stick with complex routes, recover in tough spots. He's not overly bursty to me, which can allow some early separation, and guys can definitely separate from him. So I still like the idea of him at safety as well, but I want to more so give the credit to Rocky Sin, who to me looked very comfortable in that role for really having the first time getting a nod there. He looked super comfy in that position, and I felt really good with watching him. You see here, step down, drop it off, and then Avonte Maddox does his job. He steps back, so it's a really good communication between those two. Also, that single high safety, you got Ian Kennelly, who's working over top. I would like to see him dive on this a little bit faster. We end up giving up this reception, but ultimately, he was playing with really tight angles. You can see the lateral movement skills and some of the transitions are really early from him. He plays really low in the back end, which I like. Ian Kennelly doesn't have a lot of false movement when he tries to change directions because he plays so low. From a pressure perspective here, you're going to see it starts at the bottom of the screen. You got Nate Lynn with that redirect, which is tough to deal with at the top, but he redirects back inside. So when he gets upfield push, instead of running himself out of the play, understanding he's not in a spot where he's going to be able to turn the edge and bend the edge and get back into this. So he stops himself, redirects back inside in case the quarterback wanted to step up here. And then at the top of the screen, you get Al-Quadou Muhammad, who flattens the edge really well. You're going to see him really flatten that edge. He gets into contact, gets that upfield shoulder very early on the play, and then he's able to really drop his weight here, bend that corner, flatten it through the ankles, and force that quarterback to, again, step up to two interior defensive linemen who both have good visuals on the quarterback. You notice with Tyleik, even if he's not getting upfield, he has very active hand usage. He constantly feels like he's getting himself clean, which is really necessary for that role specifically, because if you get yourself lashed up and you kind of just stop using your hands, all of a sudden that quarterback steps up and we can't help outside of hopefully getting a holding call. But he's super active with his hands. I think that's going to translate well. Nate Lynn at the defensive end spot, because he put together a plethora of good reps, and here we get this really just nasty spin move. First off, Nate Lynn looks super loose. His get off is really strong. He covers a lot of ground, a lot of depth within his stride specifically, and we're going to see here he gets that left tackle to overset. You're going to watch his transitions are really quick as well. He gets the offensive tackle to overset. You get 1-2 strides upfield. Now he's showing a declare upfield. That offensive tackle starts to drift open, and immediately he's transitioning back inside. But as he tries to transition what could be a speed to power opportunity as that tackle moves up to get an inside move, you see that tackle throws that inside punch, stabs him, and slows that rush down. So now the speed to power is settled. So instead, he immediately transitions with great agility into a spin move back inside, slips past the tackle, and now he's in the face of the quarterback. That was just so nasty. I love his footwork. I love the looseness in the hips for Nate Lynn. It transitions. Everything kind of comes together well. And then Al-Quadou Muhammad, who some of his reps didn't feel as crisp, right? They didn't feel as crisp with some of the shake and some of the setup. But ultimately here, this is just some big-time power, which you notice here. You kind of get that short area footwork, and then he's able to roll his hips. And when he rolls his hips, he maintains a lot of speed, which is what I noticed. But as he gets into the shoulders or when he starts to control this right tackle, he settles himself down, a nasty push-pull, rips his offensive tackle down, and he's in a spot to affect the quarterback. So two really good reps at the same time for both those guys. And again, it's the same kind of thing, right? We're winning inside, we're winning through, we're not allowing these quarterbacks to have an easy step-up opportunity. They're collapsing those pockets. So at the very least, if they don't get pressure, they're going to collapse in. We'll see a good example of that here in a second. Another guy I want to give some love to as well, and I don't know if we've seen him yet, but it's Zach Cunningham as a blitzer. This is something I thought he was going to be capable of. I thought he'd be capable of playing on a line when we signed him because I thought there was some real upside here. He's shown a lot of good as a blitzer. It's 2 preseason games. That's something I would look for the Lions to use him on a lot. I think we have some solid blitzing backers. I think Malcolm might be our best. Jack Campbell seemingly is getting a little bit better there. But when you look at a guy like Cunningham, he might end up being the Lions' best off-ball blitzer, if you don't include a guy like Derek Barnes. He could be that good because he's slippery. He's got some looseness. He creates a lot of depth. He's got some real juice to him. That's something I would just keep an eye on. I think we'll show a good example of him a little bit later. Defensive line here. And I want to show Al-Quadou Muhammad, who ends up continuing to work, continuing to flatten his edge and get some pressure here. You're going to see that stab move as he's working up top here. So you get the initial entry, the initial engagement. Then he starts to work himself around the corner. And watch how he maintains speed as he's still flattening the arc through his hips as he's rolling his hips over here. So he's able to maintain speed through that first punch. He's able to build it up quickly, maintain it, and then he gets into that stab move to create some separation, and as he's stabbing, he is now still working the edge while maintaining a lot of speed through those strides. So there's a stab move, then he gets the chop that's attached, and you can see he doesn't really lose any momentum. He gets stab, chop, and he maintains that momentum to continue to turn the corner, flatten the edge, and as the offensive tackle kind of stalls there through the chop, he continues to run. So now he gets himself an advantage, gets that underarm, a little bit of a rip through, and then he's able to flatten on the pocket, and he's able to get the sack on the quarterback. That was a really nice move to continue working there from Muhammad. I think we're seeing that ability to just play at a consistent play speed is what's been so noticeable to me. Tyleik Williams creates a little bit of a jolt in the entry, and this is kind of his thing right now. It's kind of the go-to is like, let me see if I can create a little easy entry here where I can get really tight hands, create a knockback, and he shows a little bit of a jolt here for knockback, but as you notice, it's not really a transition off it. It kind of just stalls, and continuing a bull rush is going to be kind of a work in progress beyond the initial punch. Can we kind of create a downhill movement? Not really in this spot, so it kind of ends up just stalling out on him. Tyleik Williams here. Now this one, I thought watching live, this could be a hold, and this is one that I thought, the right guard was saying, hey, yo, he's holding me, but he didn't really sell it that well. He seemingly didn't fight over a block fast enough or fight to get off the block into the backer fast enough, and there was no call for it. So I think it was fair game. And the fact is Tyleik Williams set himself up so early that he allowed himself to make this look that way. So on the backside, he gets this combo block with the right guard, and look how fast he is to position, right? Strides out, really elongated stride there. That way he can get over top of this block, and he's not in a spot where he could be hedged off by this tackle. And see how fast he is to bend, create really strong balance. He's got a wider base here, so there's not a lot of movement opportunity, and he's able to just sustain and hold on so long that Cunningham can step through without being touched and make this stop. Again, this is just a setup for Zach Cunningham. Now, you're going to see that knee touch the ground as he has to really stride out here, which is something that he did at Ohio State. I never loved that, but when I continued to watch him at Ohio State, I was like, oh, no, this isn't even an issue. He makes this work. So here, he drops that left knee to the ground, but what I like is when he gets himself back up, how fast he's able to drop that weight, create really good strength in the ankles there, and now he's allowing Cunningham to get upfield and make the stop here, because at that spot, once he drops that knee, you would think, okay, now you could climb. He's a little bit off balance potentially. He's not off balance. He's really stout now at this point, and as they try to turn the corner, he's settled himself down, he's dropped his weight, and now Cunningham's standing there for a tackle. So again, you would probably like to see an ability to create consistent movement here laterally. That way you don't get called, say, for a hold in this spot, potentially maybe even a little bit more knockback into that initial entry point. But for a guy that's like 330 pounds, you don't expect elite lateral movement. Well, he's so quick off the line here that he sets himself so early, and he drops that weight so quickly that he does himself a really good job early and allows that play to be made by Zach Cunningham. So wanted to give some love there. And again, that's 2 plays by Zach Cunningham. You also get a nice little edge set that time by Nate Lynn as well. This one, I will point out Ian Kennelly at that single high safety again, because watch him drift over the number 2 at the quarterback size early. He stays low in his pads. His transitions are pretty smooth. Really tight angle to the ball over top, where he's in a pretty good spot here, potentially to take this thing away. I really like that. And you can see that he's got some real range and straight line speed that he has, but I like the tight angles that he plays with. But again, back to the pressure side of things, we're still getting after it. This is where we shined in this game, and this is going to be Nate Lynn that I'm going to credit with this one. As he starts to work around the corner, he's going to stab the edge just like we saw with Al-Quadin Muhammad. You get those long strides. So that first stride, look at the depth into that second stride, though. He creates a lot of depth upfield. So you get that inside push, center line, then you get that outside push where now he's showing a little bit of a declare here, so tackle's going to have to match. But he transitions so fast. Outside, inside transition, there's the stab, and now he's running with it. And you can see how he's able to just rotate his hips and create that leverage and just continue to work it upfield, and the tackle can never settle himself down to create any kind of balance back into this place. Again, I do notice Tyleik, active hands, you get a little swim move here. Look at also the footwork, the agility, a little crossover move, gets upfield, a little crossover, active hands, keeps himself clean, gets engagement, and then again, free myself back up, get eyes on the quarterback. It's not like you're getting just one-on-one wins. He's not showing maybe some of that slither or that elite get-off upfield, but he is showing his vision. He's showing it, making it tough for guys to latch with him, and it can open some stunt work as well, or really just late effort wins where if a quarterback did step up, he'd be in a spot. And right now, that's all I really am looking for Tyleik. But here's the football intelligence. So they're going to run right at him here with an outside zone, but watch the right guard get off the ball late. So Tyleik recognized that. Right guard's off the ball late. He's going to typically, step into entry here, get some contact, try to hold up a couple gaps. But instead, with an offensive guard getting off late here, he instead uses that little right jab to then work back outside. And watch the little right jab inside, work back outside. There's that short area agility. Now he's got the guard in a bad spot. Now the guard's reacting to his movement. And when he steps over top, look at him use the left arm there, gets on the elbow, a break point, gets himself free. Watch him climb through. There's traffic around his feet right here from the right tackle, and he climbs right through it, gets upfield, balance on the play, forces a cutback, and he's walking right into Keith Cooper Jr. So again, just a nice play there by Tyleik. Really fast recognition. Speaking of, let's get right back to it. Another stretch play working on the right guard here. Very fast positioning, really quick to shoot those hands, get himself leveraged, and then look at the power through the hips here. So this is one of those plays where, he's kind of got his hand in the dirt at 2 yards, and he gets upfield, and that's where he connects with Tyleik, just a little bit in front of where he started. But you're going to see this hip strength from Tyleik to continue running here, and now he's pushing it backwards. Now all of a sudden that right guard's 2 yards behind where he started on the play. He's living in the backfield. Now he's controlling it where he settles himself down to where I can shed this and make a stop, and he's just forcing this thing to get wide. He can't get upfield. There's no straight line. Running back is now forced to move laterally. Now again, Al-Quadin Muhammad I think was a little bit late with this edge set, but he ultimately drew the holding call, so it was fine. That's just another example of him not getting credited for anything really there, but he's the guy that's forcing this thing to continue to work wider and wider, and then ultimately we get the hold call, and that really shut down that drive altogether here. Some more love to the defensive backs. Again, Rocky Sin here. Lions going cover one robber, and I like this. It's just good recognition, right? From a guy that's now playing safety really for the first time. I think it shows off some of the intelligence and just the smarts that he can play within that role. Stepping down, you can see Avonte Maddox gives up some good separation here on the outside early. Maybe doesn't have some of that closing burst, so that passes it off to Rocky Sin essentially, and he plays with a really good angle, adjusts himself himself to get in front of this so he can step down and make the stop. I thought this was a really good angle play here. And then again, even in this spot, where you're watching the defensive line and you're not really seeing that pressure that maybe you're looking for in this play, notice how no one runs past the quarterback. You get an inside move, you get the stunts across the board here, but nobody's ran past the quarterback. Everybody's in a pretty good spot. And Tyleik actually sets up what could be a successful stunt here around the top. A couple guys are stumbling around here, but again, good spot, good discipline, and this is a great example of it from the backside view here. So we're getting straight rushes across the board. You like to see a win in this spot. Tyleik tries to create that inside bull rush. So you're going to see kind of that short shoulder movement, tight hands. There's the punch, but the guard gets set early, so he gets his hands thrown on to Tyleik Williams, so it stalls out kind of that shock that he was trying to early create. So ultimately it just kind of stalls his rep, and that's where you want to see some counters. Maybe again, Lions talk about getting him in shape. You could probably get him add a little bit more kind of, juice to his game. I think that's definitely in there, a little more twitch, a little more suddenness to his game, and I think that's kind of the development, just like Ali McNeil had, maybe not as extreme, but I think that you're looking for that ultimately. But even though you don't get the edge wins on the outside, you get kind of a ghost and a rip on the bottom, and then Nate Lynn trying to kind of get some speed to power here, create a little late long arm. I love the depth by everybody here, right? Everybody's fighting to keep this thing inside. Ends fight back inside, and then the defensive tackle, specifically Tyleik, he continues to work his hands free, step back inside, and there's nowhere for the quarterback to go. So they still slowly collapse the pocket, which is a massive positive. The blitz that I wanted to talk about, right? Watch him scrape over top. Look at the quickness that he has there, the change of direction. That's the kind of thing that I think is going to translate well. It's Lions like to blitz their linebackers, but he's showing a real upside to do that. Also, Nate Lynn creates some real pressure here as well. And again, with Nate Lynn, it's the great strides off the ball, but it's that third step depth that he creates. So you get the first step, second step outside. Okay, now he's showing, look, I'm going outside. Here comes the declare here. You can see the hand usage, but watch that third step. He doesn't have any kind of stall. He just rolls his hips right through. His footwork works right over his hips, super agile. And you can see he doesn't really have to show an upfield push. He's staying pretty square to the line. He doesn't have to get into a straight vertical run upfield. So the offensive tackle is matching it pretty patiently. But he's still able to get upfield depth by just crossing over that footwork, getting his hands out to swipe and keep himself clean. That crossover footwork is nasty. He's playing with such a good upfield leverage, such good depth on the play, and he's in a spot where he can kind of now turn the corner and create some pressure. And again, from Tyleik Williams,
what I also like here, the right tackle is seemingly a little bit late off the ball to kind of short set like he does. So Lynn plays that short set, but as he's late and with really equal timing here off the ball from Nate Lynn, he's able to just utilize that crossover step to make the tackle wrong, to get that edge.
I like how he's in a pretty good spot here, right? Look at the quickness. So you're going to see some of the agility here. There's that little crossover, but look at quick hands, ready hands, gets under the elbow, gets himself clean. Now, he did lose some real momentum here. That'd be an opportunity where you think, okay, he, kind of shook off that elbow. You shook off the elbow, you're going to think, okay, maybe now he can get an edge. It kind of stalls him out eventually when he's trying to create some of that core strength and some of that torque. So he does get stalled. His footwork settles down. You don't get some of that slither upfield. Now he's forced to kind of lock back out. But the very least, you're getting good hand usage, getting himself clean again. He'd be in a spot to help us out. Though where I do think he gets moved a little bit more than what you would like on the backside here working against that guard. It's, again, elite quickness off the ball, really fast into positioning. But this time you can see he doesn't get as much bend. His base tends to get a little bit skinny here as he's settling himself in. And now between that guard and tackle, as the tackle's working in behind here, you're going to see that he's not creating as strong of an anchor or a ton of shock at that initial point. That initial entry is great because now the tackle can't come in and kind of press him upfield. Instead, he's got to work behind the guard on the play. So it's good initial entry. It's just a little bit skinny with the base. He eventually, again, can drop his weight, settle himself in, create anchor, and just kind of halt that movement eventually upfield. And he's still taking two guys with him, which is great on the play. And he doesn't get pushed too far off that line that he set himself at, right? He's setting right on the outside of the hash, really gets pushed to the inside hash, and that's about it. So he's not getting pried out of his gap. You just don't get as much of the great, I think, shock and knockback or maybe the base that you're looking for to really hold up in that spot.
You see that the corkscrew is eventually created, but it's just a little bit late within the footwork to settle himself down early on the rep and not allow movement.
And Nate Lynn with the super loose hips here. Again, look at that upfield push. 1-2 steps, vertical push here, sells it a little bit upfield. But again, he's playing so tight to the offense tackle. So that upfield sell, tackles decides to respond to it. Now he gets that inside push with that left arm to stab. And he's now created a really good spot here because he's super loose in his hips. He can turn that corner, maintain a ton of speed as he's working around the arc, and then just continue to fight him around the arc, fight his hands, and then turn that corner. This is a beautiful rep by him. But then again, from Tyleik Williams, you're going to see kind of that little agility, shoulder shake. He's going to try to create that entry for his bull rush here. it settles up a little bit, doesn't get as much knockback, and again, it just kind of tends to stall right after that. But he's still active with his hand, stays in a pretty good spot to help us out. I like that rep, though, a lot from Nate Lynn. Just to throw two little plays in here, really at the end, just because Broderick Martin really flashed in this game, and I thought that he did some good things in the first game. Nothing was terrible. He still did get in a spot where in this game, on his own play, he did end up falling behind his gap, but he also flashed some real ability to play with some good quickness. And the biggest thing is show some juice and ability to get an edge as a rusher. Pretty good quickness off the ball, gets into a spot really quickly here against the guard, uses that real length to lock himself out early on the play. But then I like the movement skills, right? He's able to get kind of skinny here, continue to run his feet, then he gets pressure, and on the very next play on the backside one technique, very quick off the ball, beats the guard to a spot early, and then again, he's able to continue to run his feet. That was a big positive, and just some of the movement skills there from Broderick. It wasn't all perfect, but there was some definite flashes in there that we haven't seen a ton of. So it was a big positive for Broderick. Tyleik Williams' debut, I think, was good. I think it was good. And at this point, I'm good. I don't really need to see anymore. I think I'm in a good spot here with what we're going to get from him. Continue to develop as a pass rusher, and then just be dominantly consistent against the run. That's the upside. That's the hope. Nate Lynn looks like he's in a really good spot to make this team. I got to be honest, right? They want to see him be good against the run. I thought he had some strong edge sets. He's not a dominant run defender. He doesn't have dominant power either, but he has more than enough juice, and he seemingly is playing with the kind of discipline that they want as a rusher to not take himself out of plays. I think he's putting himself in a good spot to make this team, especially 2 games in. Let me know your thoughts, comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.